Okay. Hi, everyone of YouTube. Um, this is my first time doing a YouTube video, so bear with me. I did play around with the settings, trying to figure it out. Um, I've been putting this off for a long time. I felt afraid to reach out in fear of retaliation, but some of you may know me, know my story. I did start a petition against Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. Since then, I've had a lot of families that have reached out to me, sharing their stories, asking for help and advice. Um, and I feel like it's time to come out to the public with everything. You're hearing horror stories all over the news, social media, it's going huge. All of you families have reached out to me, and I feel like I now need to share my story as well. And I'm hoping that through the sharing this story, maybe we can get some help for some of these families. Maybe we can all stand together because at the end of the day, this is our children. And it's happening all over the US. My petition has reached multiple different states. I've had people from all over the country reach out to me. Um, this is an area that really needs to be addressed in this country. Media is not airing it as much as they should be, I think. They're trying to cover things up by using, as for example, in Mass, the new vaping law to try to cover up what's going on. If you do some research, you'll be able to see that Massachusetts DCF is foregoing a lawsuit, which they have been since February of this year, um, for the fact that there's 134 missing foster children. They have proof that these children are being taken wrongfully from loving families. They are being sold in a sex trafficking ring. You don't hear about that on the news, though, but I will share links for everybody to be able to see this. This video is going to get a little bit personal tonight. Bear with me if I do cry, break down a little bit. It's still very hard for me. So yeah, to all those families, thank you for sharing. I hope that if anything, this gives you a little bit of comfort knowing that you're not going through it alone. There is others going through things. And I'm hoping that we can all pull together and fight because this is our children's lives. And I used to think that this would never happen to me. And I learned right away that it could happen to anybody. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Um, I have 3 children. My oldest will be 6 on October 20th. He has autism spectrum disorder. My middle child is 4, and my youngest is 2. We reside in Berkshire County, Massachusetts. I've been a single mom. I've been on my own this entire time. When the state did finally catch up to the fathers on child support, I was served papers for 50% custody. Visitation did go through. Visitation for my son with ASD was really hard for him. He had a lot of questions. He was having a hard time adjusting to things. I'm sure a lot of you understand a child with ASD and how that all works. Consistency is a huge thing. He started complaining to me about abuse. I filed a complaint, a 51A, with the Department of Children and Families, thinking I was doing the right thing. They sent somebody completely untrained in autism to come speak with my son. She did not engage with him. She did not sit down, try to play with him, try to get to his level. Instead, just decided that we're going to drill him with questions. Anybody that knows about autism knows that if you're not going to get to their level, they're not going to speak. So he did not speak to her. He did not open up like I had hoped he did. I then reached out to the department asking them to send somebody else, send somebody with training. They refused. Apparently, those type of people do not exist in the Department of Children and Families world, or if they just don't have time, or they don't care enough to do it. So that it came down to the fact that we did not have enough evidence. My son was still forced into visitations. It ended up going to court back in May. The Department of Children and Families tried to say that I was non-compliant. I had not completed anything on my service plan. Um, I had told the judge that there never was any service plan. Nothing was ever given to me. They tried to make concerns about my health, which I have been battling my health for about a year and a half now. We'll get into all that in a little bit. So the judge, obviously, when he's hearing from the Department of Children and Families over me without a lawyer, he's not going to listen. He labeled me as not credible. I then went in, so that was back in May. I didn't meet again with my caseworker until the end of June. At that time, she still did not have a service plan for me, which she admitted I did not have. So that was a lie in court. That was the first of many lies from the department at court. I had all of this proof. I've got the service plan here in my hand. The service plan was not even created until May 24th, and I had court on May 30th. I was not received or anything before court. I still, after everything they had said at court, I made a list. I went and completed it without a service plan in my hands. And then I took a copy of this because this was the postage stamp that they used to send my service plan. And it was dated for July 12th, 2019. So I never had a service plan in my hand when they had told the judge that I was non-compliant and made me seem uncredible. So that was the first time in court that went terribly wrong, thanks to the department. I then became frustrated, and I had started a petition in Massachusetts against the Department of Children and Families. My petition states that the department will have to have a specialized unit dealing with these children with disabilities. CDC states that 1 in 7 children now has some form of developmental disability, whether it be ADHD, it be autism, it be Down syndrome. 1 in 7 children is suffering or not suffering, but they're battling and they're trying to be heard, and DCF has no training on how to communicate with these kids, which I believe that they should. So in retaliation, they became really upset. When we went to court again, DCF had a testimony saying that I have refused to give them access to my medical records. They believed that I was a hypochondriac, that I had a mental health illness, and that was being taken out on my son, and that's why my son came up with these accusations, and they believe them all to be false. So that was on August 9th, and on that day, the judge decided to take my child from me. That was the hardest day of my life. I've never been more than a couple days without my kid. It's still hard for me to talk about. I did fight. I did try to say that I signed these releases. I showed them my patient portal. Every time I went to a doctor and I had an update, I was calling them. I was updating them. I was letting them know of medication changes, anything that went on. We went back to court again. And I had these documents with me when we went back. So we went to court on August 9th, and that's when Gavin was taken from me. I then went to my doctor's office on that following Monday, so that would have been August 12th, and I asked if they had received a release form. So they printed it off for me and gave it to me. And the timestamp on this was August 9th, 2019 at 2:55 p.m. So they waited till the same day we had court, after court was already over with. Knowing that the doctor's office was getting ready to close for the weekend, they sent my release. With that, they gave me this nice little paper that was signed by me on June 17th of 2019. So they held on to these documents that I signed for them to have conversations with my doctors for almost 2 months before they actually sent it over. They made sure my kid got taken from me before they sent it over. So in the court paperwork, they did make it known that hold on, I'm just trying to read through it here. That the mother has made claims which give the court some pause to believe there may be mental health concerns affecting the mother. She has repeatedly represented to the court that she is treating with life-threatening illnesses involving tumors throughout her body. Though DCF has requested to view copies of her medical records, she has refused to supply them. She has not been compliant with DCF. So that was the main reason for my son being taken from me. And I have all the proof here, but nobody will listen. I'm still without my son. I still have not seen my son. My medical records, I mean, these are pretty personal, but I feel like a lot of people are still in denial that a department that is supposed to be keeping our children safe is partaking in these events. And I feel like a lot of parents are not being listened to, or people are thinking they're lying, that DCF wouldn't do something like this. So these are straight printed off from my medical records on my patient portal. The things that I've been diagnosed with so far, I'm still seeing doctors. We still have not come down with a definite diagnosis to include everything. But so far, I've been diagnosed with abdominal bloating, weight loss that was unintentional, early satiety, abnormal celiac antibody panel, mucosal abnormality of the duodenum, which that is in my intestines. The villi along the intestinal walls are being destroyed. At one point, I keep having a cyst on my ovary, so we did a cervical cancer screening. Altered bowel function, intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I ended up with a bacteria inside my intestines that I had to be treated for. A liver mass. I have a hepatic adenoma that was found. It's slowly grown, but we're just monitoring it right now. Lymphadenopathy. That's where it all started. I've had lymph nodes removed. I don't know if you can see, I have a scar here. They've been removed, biopsied. They're still growing. You can still feel them throughout my neck. We're not really sure why. Loss of appetite, numbness and tingling of both and upper extremities, migraines, myalgia, enlarged lymph nodes, inverted nipple with bloody discharge. I actually, right before I went to court, I had a mass removed and biopsied from my breast as well. Hypothyroidism, left cervical lymphadenopathy, nausea and vomiting, intractability of vomiting not specified, abnormal TSH levels. So, I mean, I did try to bring this to the judge's attention too. All of these diagnoses, I've got every piece of paper that the doctors have ever given me. I've got photos from my multiple surgeries. None of that matters. I mean, it shows that I'm not a hypochondriac. I am taking the steps that I need to receive help. I'm getting it all better. But it sucks because my kid was taken from me because they made me out to be a hypochondriac, made me out to be a crazy person. and that indeed is not the case. Um, Sorry, guys, this is hard. I have, I mean, I went to court with this huge file of paperwork. I have every single piece of paper from the time my kid was born, all the progress he's made, all the notes from daycare when he was having a hard time before he got kicked out, everything. And I wanted to put my story out there to try to help these other families. Um, I want to reach out and see what we can do. I want all these families that have reached out to me, I would like to share their stories at some point when given the okay to share. I know in the media there's been stories of kids taken because parents are choosing alternate forms of medications or treatments for their terminally ill children. There's been cases where they were suspected of abuse. There was no proof of abuse. The children were taken. All sorts of horror stories. Um, and I want to take a stand. And I'm hoping that I can gain enough people that we can take a stand together and we can get this to stop. These are people's children's. This is people's lives. These children are the future of our country. And what are we showing them right now? I think that the government needs a little bit of revamping. And I think we need to take a stand and fight for what's right. Um, I plan on continuing live videos, keeping you guys updated. I do plan on creating more events, having some events going, signatures, maybe even some more petitions. And I have a lot of ideas. I plan on keeping everybody updated, so I hope you guys will subscribe. I hope you guys will help, and I hope you guys will stay tuned. And for all those families that are going through the similar thing, you are not alone. You are not alone, and we will take a stand together for our children. Thank you, everybody.